directors and various national agencies. Speaker Romualdez, sir. The ILG Secretary, Avalos, sir. Apo Chavez Singson. Secretary Erwin Tolpo, DSLD. Congresswoman Ching Bernos. Vice Governor Joy Valera Bernos. Municipal mayors headed by LMP President J.B. Bernos. Sir. Patpagek nga kaprobinsiyaan na imbagnal daw tayo amin. If we were gathered here on regular day, sana masaya tayong lahat ngayon. But came the 7.3 intensity earthquake yesterday. And so here we are. But there is still so much to be grateful for, and that is our being here to provide relief assistance and comfort to our beloved Abreños. Thank you, Sir, Mr. President. Your presence here, as well as the heads of the agencies who are with you, give us comfort. Malaking bagay po ito sa amin. Salamat ng marami sa mga tulong na pumapasok na at papasok pa para sa ating mga kababayan Abreño. Of course, we continue to receive update our people on the ground. There is so much change, damage, so many injured, many pero pangako namin ang Abra ay babangon. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir, for the warm welcome. Next, to give an update on the effects of the earthquake is ASEC Bernardo Rafaelito R. Alejandro IV of NDRRMC.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning. To the members of the Cabinet and to the Speaker, Speaker Romualdez, Senator Amy Marcos, to the Governor, and to the other local officials and members of the RDRMC, allow me to present the updates on the magnitude 7 earthquake in northern Luzon. Scope of my presentation is as follows: the situation overview, monitored effects, and actions taken. Let me begin with the situation overview. Shown is the latest earthquake information from PBOX, detailing the occurrence of earthquake at around 8:43 yesterday at Tayong, Abra, with a magnitude of 7.0. The highest intensity recorded is intensity 7. Also, based on records from PBOX, as of 2 a.m. this morning, there were already 798 aftershocks recorded in Abra, 161 were plotted, while 22 were felt. The magnitudes range from 1.5 to 5.4. Change in the number of aftershocks recorded was due to the validation made by PBOX. In terms of effects, for the affected population, A total of 4,969 families or 20,091 persons are affected in 110 barangays in Regions 1 and CAR. In terms of casualties, there are 5 dead and 131 injured. In terms of damage to infrastructure, there are damage reported in Ilocos Sur. Also, 61 schools were reported as damaged, as well as 3 bridges. As of reporting time, the cost of damage to infrastructure is 33.8 billion in Ilocos region alone. To date, the concerned agencies and regional offices are still gathering reports on the damage to agriculture and other assets. For houses, a total of 349 houses were damaged in CAR and Region 1. For roads and bridges, there are 22 roads closed to traffic in Cordillera region and 1 road in Cagayan Valley region. Several areas in CAR also experienced power interruption. While the whole province of Ilocos Sur experienced power interruptions but was immediately restored at 2 p.m. yesterday. In the Cordillera, most of the earthquake effects were reported in Abra and Benguet as shown. Also shown are the effects in Kalinga, Ifugao, and Mountain Province. Here are some photos capturing the extent of damage in the region. Now, for the actions taken, the NDRIMC conducted its emergency meeting with the affected regions via BTC since yesterday. The virtual EOC was activated and red alert was raised at the NDRIM OC. The NDRIMC directive was signed by the chairperson, was issued for Luzon regions on the reiteration of response actions. PBOX also conducted continuous assessment and organized its quick response teams. A total of 2 emergency alerts and warning messages were issued. This is in relation to the no tsunami alert. Specifically, the NDRIMC has directed its response cluster to monitor the situation, provide assistance as needed, and account all actions taken. Shown are the summary of actions taken by the response cluster. For search, rescue, and retrieval cluster, this is led by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. As shown, we have standby assets that were deployed and also on standby for use. For camp coordination and camp management, protection and food and non-food items cluster, which is led by the DSWD, they have a standby relief amounting to 1.3 billion ready for augmentation. For emergency telecoms cluster, led by DICT, as shown, they're doing ongoing restoration together with the commercial telcos. For the shelter cluster, this is led by the DSUD. They have prepared shelter assistance with the help of partner agencies. For the health cluster, this is led by DOH. They have provided medicines and other medical supplies to the affected LGUs. For the education clusters, this is led by the DepEd. They reported around 61 damaged schools and 116 damaged classrooms, and the assessment is still ongoing. For the logistics cluster, this is led by the OCD. We have available stockpiles ready for augmentation when needed. For the law and order cluster, this is led by the PNP. They have deployed security forces around the different evacuation centers and have around 1,290 personnel on standby. For the management of the dead and missing, this is led by the DILG. They are doing the verification of the casualties of this event. Then we have the Philippine International Humanitarian Assistance Cluster, which is led by the DFA. They are monitoring offers of assistance. So far, we have received offer of assistance from Japan, specifically for search, rescue, and retrieval and other emergency supplies. The AFP also conducted its immediate aerial reconnaissance for rapid damage assessment over Abra, Bigan, and other shoreline of La Union area. Based on the assessment, there were minor damage spotted at Bigan Cathedral and Bell Tower, as well as road damage due to landslide. No other significant observations or assessments were made. Here is the detailed report from the AFP for aircraft S-70, as shown. They flew over Abra yesterday. Also, here is the detailed report from the AFP for aircraft S-76A, which flew over Vigan and La Union also yesterday. As for the regions and the local government units, they have conducted rescue and retrieval operations in affected areas. The regions and the local government units also provided assistance to affected families. They initiated the conduct of clearing operations, and presently they are doing the assessment and data validation. With this, we'd like to inform the President that the response is managed at the local and regional levels with the support from outside regions, local government units, and other national government agencies. The NDRIMC is continuously monitoring and on standby for specific needs that may arise. That ends my briefing, Mr. President.
Thank you, ASEC Alejandro.
Thank you.
At this point, may we hear the President's guidance.
Well, let's start. Good morning, everyone. I just like to start by clarifying some of the parts of the report. Number one, power has been restored everywhere. Wala nang area na nawalan ng power na hindi pa bumalik ang power o meron pa rin.
Sir,
yung mga isolated na bayan at dito sa Abra.
Yes, sir.
The seven towns in the mountains, ano?
yes, sir. Not all towns have power already, sir. Hindi pa po lahat. But
When do we anticipate na bumalik na? Yan. Tama-tama ang ating mga. Yes, I wanted that. I saw them. That's why I wanted to ask.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
My name is Loreto Shares Jr. I'm the General Manager of Abreco.
Good morning.
Please allow our technical assist to give you a brief report regarding
Please.
po sa
Oh.
extent ng damages ng Abreco.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. President.
Good morning.
As of this early morning, sir, is all 26 towns ng Abra may power na po. Although there are some laterals po na wala. Katulad po, halimbawa po, yung isang transformer na sira, definitely po, wala po. Pero yung backbone line po, buong Abra meron na po, sir.
So yung you have yung capability ninyo, yung capacity ninyo bago ng lindol, nasa 95% na kayo, parang gano'n.
Alin po yung-
Naibalik na ninyo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's
Yes, sir.
about in the
Yes,
so
sir. Yes, sir.
significant. The next area I wanted to ask about dahil hindi masyadong maliwanag was the communication. Hindi pa ba ang pagkaintindi ko from the DICT is that the globe is fully functioning. Who can we say in a sense? Is globe fully functioning and smart is also almost fully functioning? All right. Okay na for the province of Abra. Talagang inaantay lang niya na the power. Okay, of course. So, Sec Erwin, what are the outstanding issues yet para sa assistance doon sa ating mga naging biktima who are that's another question I wanted to ask. Usually in the disaster reports, there is one area where you give the number of totally destroyed houses and partially destroyed. Do we have that number, those numbers? Yes, please, para alam natin what what we are dealing with.
At this, Mr. President, at this point, we're continuing the assessment, and right now, as per 6 o'clock a.m., we have 28 totally damaged houses and 2,362 partially. Pero tataas pa to, sir, as the report sa kasi i-reach out pa natin yung mga outlying barrios, Mr. President.
Yusek Solidum, are we allowing them already? Are we allowing them already to go back into their homes, at least the engineers, to inspect if they are safe? Is it already safe for people to, at least hindi pa muna yung resident, kundi yung mga mag-inspeksyon, to declare safe
Yes
the
po.
structure?
Kung declared talagang structurally safe po yung mga building, pwede na. But people should be ready how to respond properly during aftershocks. Kasi malakas pa po ang posibleng aftershock, and just to brief po ang mga local government units, we expect aftershocks to continue for several weeks. Pero the first 3 days po ang marami, and hopefully, pababa na siya.
For example, the hospital, when ayaw pa nilang pumasok ngayon because it's still it might still be unsafe and baka magka-aftershock. When is it safe for our people to go in to make the inspection and then start the repairs?
Yung inspection po can be done right away.
Can be done right.
Yes po.
Who will perform the
Engineer po, public works
yung
and
sa public
engineers.
works? Oo,
Ninyo.
public works ang gagawa.
Yes po.
They will do the inspections. All right. The other, I think, Sector Win, I think dun sa human victims, yung mga homeless, how many people have been rendered homeless? Yes, Director. Oo. Ano
Yes, sir.
yung
Mr. President.
yung statistic for homeless?
Ang bali, actually, ang nakalagay ho dito natin is totally is 28, pero ang partially, so assess pa natin yan, is 2,362.
Saan ngayon yung mga resident na yan?
Ito po ay covered po ito, yung mga marami rito po sa Abra, tapos meron din tayo sa Kalinga, sa Benguet.
Hindi, pagka homeless sila, saan sila tinakbo? Saan
Ano
sila
po yan?
dinala? Where did you evacuate them to?
Dalawa po yan, evacuation centers, o meron silang napuntahan ng
Here
mga
in
kamag-anak sa
Yes,
ibang lugar.
go, Vice Joy.
Mr. President, we opted to accommodate all our evacuees sa open area like yung ganitong structure. All of the LGUs in the province po, we have evacuation centers, but it's not advisable to accommodate inside the evacuation center since meron pa po mga aftershock. Kaya yung mga merong mga basketball courts, we set up through the SWD, we set up modular tents for everyone.
All right. How many now are in those evacuation centers?
Actually, sir, we have 1,000 modular tents coming in, dumating na ito, and another 1,000 coming from Region 2, interoperability. So, parating ho ito mga modular tents, pero meron na ho kaming na-set up dito sa Benguet.
I'm looking for the number so that the SWD knows how to prepare. Ilan ang aalagaan, ilan yung papakainin. That's yung basics. Basic. How long will we have to be keeping them in the evacuation center? All of this para alam ng DSWD kung ano yung trabaho nila. Yes,
Yes, sir. If I may, sir. OIC Faustino, sir. Sir, we have a figure here. We have the reports coming in from the affected regions. We have a total of 409,969 families, or 20,000 persons, more or less, that are affected in 110 barangays in Region 1 and the Cordillera Administrative Region. Inside evacuation centers, 31 evacuation centers ang nabilang natin, sir. We have around 2,312 families and in regions 1 and Cordillera Administrative Region. Then outside evacuation centers, yung mga tao na temporarily staying sa relatives nila or friends o naglagay ng mga tent sa labas ng bahay, we have around 413 families or 1,637 persons, sir. The whole sir, regions, far end region 1. So these are the numbers, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sir, let me add to that. Yung affected families po, basing as of 6 a.m. kanina, sir, is around 4,969 dito po. Persons, to translate that in individuals, like 20,091. Nasa evacuation centers po natin ng families is 2,312. And persons, yung bawat tao, sir, is 8,314. Outside evacuation centers, sir, yung wala po sa mga evac centers sila, pero diyan po sa tabi ng bahay lang sa labas po, yung iba opted to return home, 413 families po. Persons po is 1,657, Mr. President. Damaged houses po, partial is 9, totally damaged po as 349 so far, but it might still go up, sir, according to the LGU.
All right, mabuti na lang you don't see any of this from the air. All right, so that is going to be at the very least kasi dati as you say, tataas pa yung number niyan eh.
Yes,
Habang
sir.
na makatanggap na tayo ng report lalo na yung mga mananayo. So I think we are prepared for that kind of number.
We are, sir. Basing on your instruction po kasi during the SONA, sir, morning pa lamang, we have already deployed all these food packs, yung prepositioning. Hindi lang po food packs, pati po non-food items have been prepositioned already, sir, sa mga provinces. Kagaya po dito sa Abra, sir, nag-preposition na po kami nung morning pa lang po ng SONA ninyo, pinadala na ho lahat dito. Ang anticipation namin, sir, was flood and landslide, hindi po earthquake. Pero we have already distributed, sir.
Yeah, that's what we were worried about in the very beginning na umulan that will make the situation work. So we do what we usually do, work together with the local government so that we can make sure na walang nangangailangan na hindi natin nabigyan ng tulong. That's just the LGUs are always the ones, the municipal mayors, the governors, the vice governor, ay kayong nakakaalam kung what the situation is on the ground. So our communications is back, yung kuryente is back. Wala namang nasira na water supply. Yes, and I mean.
Yes, with all due respect, Region 1 is not completely back in terms of power. And even in Batak, there was no power this morning in certain barangays such as Kiling Sur and those beside and surrounding MMSU. The same goes for certain coastal towns. They're still in the dark.
As I understand it, even in Ilocos Sur, meron pa rin yata. La Union, meron pa yata.
Yes, that's
may
correct.
mga lugar pang wala eh.
We're having some problems in Cagayan as well due to all sorts of electrical issues at may mga transformer na bulok na pumutok na rin.
Well, that unfortunately, yung pag-inspeksyon ng linya will take time. But I think we will just have to do as much as we can, as quickly as possible. Of course, that's going to be for the key for our relief efforts. Lahat ng gagawin natin. We have to be able to communicate and we have to be able to operate. So that's why inuna ko yung dalawang yun to find out what our capabilities are. All right. So the next, since we've paid attention already to the human aspect of it. Well, there's one more question I had in terms of service. Wala namang nagka-problema na putulan ng water supply. Meron din. Oh, that's something that we have to. We're here in Banggit. Oh, anong nangyari?
Dahil siguro sa movement ng soil or whatever, kaya yung mga lines ng water system po nagkakaproblema.
Well, that again is actually even more of a priority than communications and power. That's something that has to be restored immediately. So we have a representative from Public Works here or from the Water Authority.
Sir, from the Office of Civil Defense.
I'm
Regarding
sorry, could
water,
you-
sir, water supply, if I may, sir. The whole province of Abra needs 300,000 bottles of water, drinking water. Yes. So initially, I coordinated with the Office of Civil Defense Central Office. So may parating na po na initial na 500 boxes of distilled water. So, ang kailangan talaga, sir, is 6,250 boxes, 48 for a total of 300,000 bottles. Initial po. So we are doing an initial, naglo-loading na po sa central office ng Office of Civil Defense. It will be coming anytime this day.
But
Yes, sir.
are the systems that were damaged, are they undergoing repair? Because we cannot be providing bottles of water for too long.
Sir, good morning. I'm Director Kadafi Tanggol from DPWH CAR. Sir,
Oh, there you are. Okay.
with regards to the water system, sir, the maintenance and the operation were delegated to the local waterworks now. So they have the responsibility for the maintenance, sir.
Cannot provide assistance to the local government para maging mas mabilis.
Sir, the first instruction of Secretary Bunuan for us is to make all our national roads and bridges passable.
Correct, yes.
So we started dun sa, we have 22 road closures, and then for CAR, we still have 3 na road closure. So after which, we will assist also the local government units in clearing their local roads. Yun ang instruction ni Secretary Bunuan, which we are doing now. And nagpalabas din sir ng assessment team si Secretary Bunuan, both from the central office and from the regional office, to assess the situation of our infra and other buildings. Kasama na yung sa school buildings, hospitals, and other government facilities. So this assessment, sir, is ongoing na since yesterday, and we will submit the report tomorrow, Friday. Yun ang binigay sa amin na deadline, sir.
All right, but we have to put together a plan to restore the actual water systems
Yes,
as
Yes.
quickly as possible. Yes, Sana.
yes, Mr. President, if I may. I'm sending up a solar purifier, and we found in Ilocos Norte that those are very helpful. You don't have the disposal of plastic and all the other issues that surround distilled water. So perhaps the national government can begin to procure solar purifiers for these disasters. In the meantime, I'm sending one to Abra.
Very well.
Mr. President, sir,
One of the things that we have found useful in all of the disaster, pagka water supply ang nagiging problema, are the water purifying systems that are very simple. You've seen them before, yung nasa balde, and then they have a filter. We should procure more of those because immediately water is always going to be a problem. Para hindi, things like cholera, diphtheria will come into play. So tignan natin na mabuti yan. In fact, I know already of a source where we can immediately get them. There is it is actually an aid agency, and yun lang ang trabaho nila. Nagpo-provide sila nung ginamit natin sa Yolanda.
Mr. President.
Yes,
I
yes.
think that's the NGO called Spring that was very present in Yolanda in Tacloban.
That yung maliliit, maganda niyan is it's sufficient for one to supply 100 people per day. So if the barangay has 4, 5, 6 of them, at least may tubig na.
We also have an indigenous technology using the burnay to filter by layer the impure water into potable.
Well, we have to try everything. Basta pakuluan lang ng konti just to be sure that everything is safe. Yes, Sec.
Mr. President, yung sinabi ni Secretary Army, tama po yun. In fact, MMDA is now here with 10 water purifiers. We've issued, ginamit po namin ito nung huling Odette sa Bohol at sa Samar. So naka-standby na po sila. Siguro solar powered din po sila. Lalagay lang ito sa isang poso o kung saan at it could really pwede mag-supply sa isang barangay. Andyan na po, the 10 teams.
Ang isang barangay. How
Yeah,
big? How many?
ito po ay sampung makina po ang dala po
nakasakay
nila.
sa truck?
Ano po ito? Portable po ito, sir. Very
Makita,
portable.
portable na
Yes,
rin.
sir.
Okay.
Na-test na po na, gamit na po namin ito, and magdadala. And they're now here at the Capitol, the MMDA search.
Kailangan natin lahat yan. But I'm particularly interested doon sa that simple purification system. Because we don't know how long it's going to take. So, mabuti meron silang water supply. Iwanan na namin sa inyo yan. Kasi ito, when more or less there is a supply. But we cannot depend only on water bottles. After a while, and then makikita ninyo daming plastic bigla sa barangay ninyo. Maglilinis kayo ng gusto. So all right. So yes, those are the critical parts, I think, to support the not beneficiaries, the victims. In the meantime, hanggat sila'y makabalik. All right. So I would like to see a report on the infrastructure damage in the roads, bridges, then also from the irrigation, kung tinamaan yung mga irrigation system natin, and what the damage is. So maybe the Public Works can give us a report on the.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Here we will start with Cordillera, and the next reporting will be by Arditan of Region 1. So for this particular incident, we were able to deploy 408 equipment and 2,228 manpower. That's for CAR and Region 1. Next slide, please. And then, sir, these are a series of pictures of the landslides that happened in Cordillera. This is under the Benguet province. Next slide, please. This one is in Marcos Highway, sir. And as of this writing, it's already passable, 2-lane passable. Next slide. Yan, sir, yung sa Marcos Highway, it's now passable. Next slide. That's still in Marcos Highway. The same one section lang yan, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Nueva Vizcaya Road. As you can see in the slide, yung portion na may intervention, walang nangyaring slides. But dito sa section na malapit sa cameraman, wala pang intervention na nagawa. So there's a slide. Next, please. This is the same section, sir, in Nueva Vizcaya Road, which is now open, 2-lane. Next slide. Another section in Nueva Vizcaya Road. Again, this section, sir, is open na rin as of now. Next slide. Another section, sir, in Andres Acop Cosalan Road. This one, sir, is open lang siya ng 1 lane. We need more intervention for this one. Next slide. Yan. So, passable na po siya, sir, for 1 lane lang. Next slide. So, this one, sir, again, is in Andres Acop Cosalan Road. It's now passable. Next slide. Next slide, please. This one, sir, is in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road in Kapangan. It's now passable din, sir. Next slide. This one, another section in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road. It's now passable, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is again in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road. It's now passable. Next slide. Again, sir, in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road at Kibungan, it's now passable. Next slide. Another section of the Governor Badu Dangwan National Road in Ampusungan, Bacon, Benguet. It's now passable, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Baguio Bontoc Road, there are series of slides that happen in that road section. Next slide. The same road section, sir, in Baguio Bontoc Road. Cleared na ito, sir. It's passable. Next slide. Again, in Baguio Bontoc Road, sir. Sir, ganyan kalalaki yung mga nahuhulog na bato dito sa Cordillera. So you can just imagine the danger that ito yung kinakatatakutan ng mga taga-Cordillera pagka dumadaan sila sa ating kalsada, sir. Next slide. This one is in Alab section, Bontoc Mountain Province. Next slide. This one is in Bunyan section, passable na rin ito, sir. Next slide. Next slide. Again, in Baguio Bontoc Road, Lukib section, Mountain Province, sir. Now it's passable. Next slide, please. And this one, sir, the next slide. Next slide. Again, in Baguio Bontoc Road, sir. This is in Mount Data Cliff, Bauco. Ito, sir, yung hindi pa passable. Ongoing pa yung clearing at this section. Next slide. Again, katabi lang nito nung isa, sir, pero this part ng doon sa Mount Data Cliff is open na. Next slide. This one is the Mountain Province to Ilocos Road. Next slide. Passable na rin siya, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, again in Mountain Province to Cagayan via Tabuk Inrel Road and Makutiti section. Passable na rin siya, sir. Next slide. So those are series of pictures, sir, that we were able to collect. And as of this morning, sir, 7 a.m., we still have 3 remaining closed na road section. This is the Ifugao, sa Ifugao, sir, the Kiangan Tinok Bugyas Road, which we expect to be open bukas ng 5 p.m. And one in Kalinga, sir, the Lubuagan Batong Buhay to Abra Road. Again, we expect this to be open tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then the one, yung nasa picture, sir, na close pa rin, the Baguio Bontoc Road, our target is July 30. Namin ma-open yun, sir. And sir, with your instruction, in fact, may mga yung kasama pala siya sa assessment team natin na dinispatch ni Secretary Bunuan, kasama yung mga consultants ng foreign consultants. So I'd like to inform our local governments here in Abra, yung Katahira and Sons. They have a team that went here this morning also to help us in the assessment of the extent of the damage.
Paano naman meron kayong report sa mga tulay? The Vice Governor was showing me pictures of damaged bridges.
Yes, sir. Yung mga na-report na damage, sir, mostly on the approach, sir. So madali na lang yung intervention, sir. Structurally stable naman yung mga bridges natin along our national roads.
Joy, yung pinakita mo sa akin, may malaking crack na ganito, all half a meter wide na crack.
It's located in the Baay Bridge in Abra Kalinga Road, sir.
At saka yung, what was the other bridge, yung umurong sa approach?
Yes, sir.
Hindi na parehong level.
We are waiting for yung result ng assessment ng ating structural engineer, sir.
All right. Well, again, of course, that's very important. You get all those bridges back into service. I think you're doing as well as can be done dito sa pag-clearing ng mga kalsada. Malalaki yung mga bato na nakita natin. All right. So that now when we have to organize also, I guess local government kasi kayong mga staff, ang mga staff ninyo magagamitin. Paano kung hindi naman injured yung mga evacuee, paano natin kung as soon as possible maibalik? Kaya tinanong ko na kung kailan tayo pwedeng pumasok sa mga bahay para maibalik sila sa bahay nila. And for those that have damage, do we need to provide usually, at least for temporarily, hinihingi niya mga trapal, mga GI sheet, plywood, mga 2x2, yun ang mga para meron lang sa kagaya mga bubong na nasira, at least makubera nila habang i-repair para pwede na sila makatira doon. But the first part is going to be really kung it's safe. We have to determine that it's safe. And
Until when po kaya, Mr. President? Kasi most of the families are on the streets, or they use the camping tents
Yes.
outside their houses. So they are waiting for us, for our advisory, kung kailan ulit sila papasok sa bahay nila.
Isaac Solido, maybe you can guide us.
Ang pinaka-importante po, Vice Gov, is ma-inspect ng mga engineers kung structurally sound yon. Kung walang sira, mas candidate na bumalik agad. Basta masigurado na structurally safe. Kasi yung ibang may sira, baka matuluyan sa aftershock.
But the fear, Yusek, is that baka simulaan nila yung pag-inspeksyon, abutan naman sila ng aftershock.
Usually po sa labas muna
Baka
sila.
masaktan pa sila.
Usually sa labas muna. Tinitingnan muna. From the outside, that's the first phase. May mga visual inspection po ang mga engineers ng Public Works. At kung may candidate na delikado, siyempre hindi na muna pababalikin yan.
Alright. Ganun talagang tendency, ayaw iwanan yung bahay as much as possible. So we must we do everything to bring them back in So who will do the inspection? Will be the local government or the DPWH? Sino mag-i-inspect ito mga residences na ito? Kayo sa Public Works o sa local ang usually na ano?
Yung for the residents, sir, local na yun, sir.
Maybe you can give.
But of course, sir, the PWH is always,
There's nothing wrong.
we're here to, we can assist naman.
If the national government will provide some technical assistance.
Sige, sir.
Oo.
Yes,
Kasi
if I
ilan ang
may.
engineer mo sa Kapitolyo?
Yes, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
President,
Senator.
please. Yes, regarding inspection and structural integrity and soundness, since Region 1 is present here, I just came from Ilocos Sur, Manong Chavit is here. The destruction among the heritage churches, for example, is overwhelming. We inspected Bantay, the Vegan Cathedral, as well as Kaunayan Church. They are or should be condemned shortly. However, it is known to us that the Public Works, for example, is hardly competent to assess the integrity of these centuries-old churches. May I encourage the speaker being here that the budget be put aside for proper structural integrity that is non-destructive. I have done this. At least I've got a bill for it for Poway Church before. Medyo mahirap-hirap siya, highly technical. May rebound hammer test, ultrasonic pulse velocity, electromagnetic cover, meter test, Windsor probe, and on and on and on. You have to contract specialists for this, but clearly for heritage churches, this is necessary. Secondly, I'd also like to pitch here that much of the infrastructure really in Region 1, CAR, and Region 2 is over 50 years old, which by international standards is ancient and should be replaced.
Sir, may I?
Mr. President.
Yes, please, go ahead. Ronan.
Hi. Good morning, sir, Mr. President. RD Ronel Tan po from Region 1. Actually, yung instruction nga po ni Secretary, tulungan namin yung local. Actually, ginakandak na po namin sa mga national buildings yung assessment sa lahat, including bridges. Ay susunod na po namin na tulungan yung local na mga residences na ano yung kanilang structural integrity ng kanilang buildings. Actually, kahapon pa po, nag-start na kami lahat ng national buildings, in-start na namin. With regards po dun sa mga, dito naman po sa Region 1, minimal lang yung damage. At least yung pong, as reported, for the infrastructure, mga 35 million lang po yung ano. At yung pong nabanggit na tulay, yung Kalumbuyan, Anduyan, at mga ano lang po yan, sir, mga slow protection lang, and may mga papalitan lang parts yung tulay para restore na po sa dati. And with regards to also to Region 1, doon sa road na sarado, 3 road section lang po sa Region 1 ang sarado, itong Tagudin Cervantes sa bahagi ng Soyo, na dahil sa dami ng rock slides, mga next week pa ho namin matatapos. Pero po yung 2 road section na kadugsong nito, yung papuntang Aluling at papunta ng Bontok, ma-open ho namin hanggang bukas. Matitira lang po yung isa. Pero may mga blasting po kasi may ginagawa. Kaya medyo may backup na rin pong mga equipment na dila ang regional office para mabackupan yung district engineering office. With regards po sa LOC, wala naman hong reported pagdating sa water supply na damage sa bahagi. Wala hong nire-report sa amin. Although sa
Ang gumalaw pong fault ay yung Abra River Fault. No, ang galaw po niyan, may pagkaangat at sideways. So nung gumalaw na yung isla, nadistorbo po yung tubig, kaya minsan umatras, bumabalik. So, hindi po yun talagang tsunami, but not really life-threatening, avoid lang nila, atras lang. Yung mga cracks po sa mga beaches, yan po yung result ng liquefaction, may bumubuka pong lupa. So, Mr. President, meron po tayong 23-man DOST team. Nasa Vegan ang nandito na po sa Abra, ka-partner ang PPBBM. We will evaluate yung landslide po kasi yun po yung pinakamahirap at yung mga cracks na nangyari sa Ilocos para mabigyan ng guidance po ang local government.
This is coastal, not
Yes.
riverine.
Yeah, coastal po. May mga
Not
malambot
Abra
po.
River.
Well, maybe we can explain that as best as possible. The most important thing is that people understand na hindi sila kailangan mag-alala sa tsunami at saka sa storm surge. Pero nagbabago talaga dahil may umurong ang lupa eh. So yung sa pag-urong nun, meron talaga magiging effects. Bantayan na lang nila. Huwag silang mahulog dun sa malaking crack. Huwag silang very familiar naman sila. So but I think it's important that yung tsunami and storm surge maging maliwanag, huwag kayong mag-alala.
Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Sir, since we are in Abra, meron kaming separate infrastructure damage for exclusive for Abra. If you would allow us to present.
All right, please go ahead.
First slide, please. So ito yung mga damages dito sa Abra, sir. This one is in Abra, Ilocos Road. Next slide. Next slide.
Umurong talaga.
So ito sir yung mga fault line. Abra, Ilocos Road again. Next slide. The same road section, Abra, Ilocos Road. Next slide. The same road section, sir. Next slide. Next slide. Abra, Ilocos Road again. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So yan, sir. Nagkaroon siya ng hump. It's a straight line. Next slide. So, rockfall. Next slide. Ito, sir, yung sa approach ng bridge. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Abra, Kalinga Road at Dolores, Abra. Next slide. Again, sir, in Abra, Kalinga Road. Rock slide. Next slide, please. So, open na rin siya, sir. Next slide. Next. Next slide. Again, sir, in Abra, Kalinga Road. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The same, sir, Abra, Kalinga Road. Next slide. So, sir, kung mapapansin niyo, sir, puro mga rock slide yung nangyayari dito rin in that part of this province. Next slide, please. Abra Kalinga Road again. Next slide. Abra Kalinga Road again. Next slide, please. Yan naman, sir, along Abra Cervantes Road, San Isidro, Lagangilang, Abra. So, ito yung sa Baay Bridge, sir.
Malapit ito sa ano na epicenter.
Yes, sir.
Nagangilang. Basta yun ang area.
Next slide. Ito naman, sir, sa Calao, Bukay, Abra, along Abra Cervantes Road. If you can see the size of the boulders na nahulog. Next slide. So again, in Abra Cervantes Road, sa Lapadan, Abra. Next slide. Biwing Bridge in San Ramon, Manabo, Abra. Next slide. Ito, sir, not passable pero may detour naman siya, sir. Next slide. The same bridge, Biwing Bridge. Next slide. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Sadik Bridge, San Ramon, Manabo again. Next slide. Ito naman, sir, is in San Ramon, East Manabo, Abra. Next slide. Soil collapse along Abra Cervantes Road. Soil collapse yan, sir, pero may kasama ring boulders. Next slide. The same. Next slide. Next slide. So yan na, sir, yung ongoing na clearing operation. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Calaba Bridge, Calaba Bangged. So the same, sir, yung sa, kung makikita niyo yung picture sa left ng approach, meron tayong crack. Next slide. This one, sir, is along the Abra Ilocos Norte Road. May konting settlement dun sa left side ng kalsada. Next slide. Norte Road. Next slide. The same road section, Abra Ilocos Norte Road. Next slide. The same section. Next slide, please. Abra Ilocos Norte Road again. Next slide. Another section along Abra Ilocos Norte, sir. So, just the same, you can see yung may intervention tayo, walang nangyaring slide, pero yung dito na wala pang intervention, may slides na nangyari. Next. So, next. So, again, sir, another section along Abra Ilocos Norte Road. Next slide. Ongoing clearing. Next slide. This, another section along Abra Ilocos Norte Road, sir. Next slide. Next. So, this one, sir, another section. So, again, may settlement on the left side of the road. Next slide. The same road section, sir, along Abra Ilocos Norte Road. Next. Again, sir, along Abra Ilocos Norte Road, ito medyo malaki, sir, yung na-open sa yung crack sa kalsada. Next slide. This one, sir, along the Abra Ilocos Norte boundary road. Next slide. So, sir, that is just a few of the pictures that affected Abra. And yung initial cost ng damage, sir, is as of this moment is nasa 418 million. Pero I think it will increase, sir, as we go on with our assessment.
How many national roads are closed for now?
In Abra, sir, isa na lang.
Isa na lang.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Which one?
Yung Abra Kalinga Road, sir. Actually, sir, na-open yun, pero yung aftershock, nagkaroon ulit ng slide.
Nagka-slide ulit.
Ay,
Ano yun dyan?
Abra Ilocos Norte Road is closed right now, sir.
Yes, yung pinakita mo. The one that you just showed us. Abra Ilocos Norte. Is that open?
Open na, open na.
Open na. O hindi pa raw eh.
Just this morning, hindi. Sarado, may mga slides. Just
So,
this morning,
as a-
may report po na Abra Los Norte is closed again.
So that's a result of nung aftershock
Maybe
this
due to
morning.
the aftershocks early this morning.
May
Kaya
aftershock
may mga
tayo,
slides
sir.
na naman po.
So nagka-landslide ulit.
So anyway, sir, may equipment tayo sa site and they will
How
open
strong
that.
are the
again.
aftershocks still now?
Magnitude 5, mga intensity 5 po yan. So pwede niyang iusod pa yung na landslide na area.
Kanina, 5. Kagabi, 5.
Malakas pa rin.
Yes po.
Oh, okay. So everybody be careful. Talaga we have to balik-balik. We just have to keep going back and clearing all of this. What about the irrigation infrastructure? NIA. May NIA ba dito? Yun ang inaalala ko eh. All right. Well, anyway, siguro mag-inspection, we will ask them to give us an assessment of what happened to the irrigation systems. All right. Wala namang peace and order problem, hindi naman nag-agulo, nothing like that.
Sir.
Bumusina ka naman. Bumusina ka ng konti.
Sir,
Yes, who is
right here, sir.
Sorry.
May update lang ho yung RD natin from CAR, yung Benguet kasi sir, tinamaan din eh. Go ahead, Arnel Garcia, Director Garcia.
Mr. President, doon sa Benguet and also in Abra na nabibigyan na natin ng mga food packs ang atin pong mga evacuation centers per order ni Secretary. And at the same time, doon sa Benguet, nabayaran na natin yung isang casualty natin. Ito ay burial at guarantee letter doon sa Kabaong. So lumalabas ng mga 35,000 po yan. As per rin po ni Secretary, dito po sa Abra, nag-release po tayo ng mga 10 million para roon sa partially at totally damaged houses. Ito po ay ibibigay natin in the form po ng aid for individual in crisis. At ito po ay dala po natin. At this point po, Mr. President, ngayon po ay may 3,900 food packs tayo na i-airlift. At kailangan lang po namin ng extra chopper. Kasi po, isa lang po, ang nag-confirm po ay ang Dagyuman, Lacob, Bolinay, Bagdok, Luluba, Maliktong at saka Tubo for confirmation. Ito po yung mga area na mga outlying isolated area, sir, na meron ho tayo, iisa yung chopper. So nagre-request ako sa OCD na malagyan. At kung kinakailangan, while nagki-clear po yung local government, pwede na nating imano-mano. Pero ito po, yung essential ngayon, itong first few ay kami, isang chopper lang po ang dala natin.
I think yung mga asset natin, gamitin na natin. Kasi wala pang nakaabot doon. Wala pang nakapasok doon sa yung isolated na 7 towns.
Wala pa ho. At ngayon ho, yung chopper natin ngayon, meron listahan ho ng barangay. Ngayon ho ay nililipad. Ngayon parang isang chopper pa lang ang available.
Nakakailang barangay sila sa isang araw?
Ang chopper, depende ho sa chopper capacity po yan.
Ay,
Kung yung
iba-ibang
Black
chopper
Hawk
ang
malaki.
ginagamit. Ibang helicopter, iba-ibang
Ano ba ang
helicopter.
capacity ng Black Hawk?
Oh, sige, let's hear from
Sir, yes, sir. We have available helicopters right now, sir. The Northern Luzon Commander is here. I've given instructions already, sir. As presented to you yesterday, sir, we have a number of air assets. From Black Hawk, sir, we have 2. Then you have the Super U is 2 to 3. Then we have additional choppers coming. May naka-standby sa Metro Manila na pwede nating i-answer. Rest assured, sir, that I think the airlift of these relief packs will start today. Dadagdagan pa natin yan, sir. It will reach.
All right. So yung para we can say that we have reached every part of the affected area, not only Abra, but even the other provinces. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm Lieutenant General Torres, Commander Northern Luzon Command.
General.
The General Headquarters allocated 10 aircrafts for the use of Northern Luzon, meaning covering the three regions, regions 1, 2, 3, and Cordillera Administrative Region. All of these choppers are distributed in Wallace, in Clark, in Camp Aquino, and actually 2 of those choppers are here with 24th Infantry Battalion at Lagangilang, Abra, ready for use. Now, if there are some coordination that has to be made regarding the use of our transport, security, and search and rescue teams, we have standby. Right now, we have deployed over 100 of our personnel for direct search and rescue operations, and we have on standby about 500 for use of regions who need our services. Now, we have established also the HADR, or Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief Monitoring and Coordinating Center at Camp Aquino. Representative from DSWD, OCD, DILG, and PNP are there. So should there be any other coordination like what was mentioned by our friend from DSWD CAR, it has to pass through us. And at the regional level, it could be channeled also through the division commander and the brigade commander. We are ready to support with whatever capability we have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
General.
President.
So, siguro pati yung mga reserve, the ones you kept in Clark, in reserve, maybe it's time to bring them here. Hindi naman, it won't be for, I'm hoping that it will be for a shorter time, as maybe a week. So, but we have to feed those people. And since walang nakakapasok, wala. Helicopter lang ang option natin. Yes, Sen. Aimee.
Yes, Mr. President, I think the report of General Torre as well as our Chief of Staff merely highlights the inefficiency of our system, that they have to brave the chain of command, they have to call on other departments, Secretary Turfo has to come here, the President himself has to come here, merely underlies the urgency of empowering the NDRRMC. May I recommend, by way of yet another IME solution, rather than a full-scale department na mauubos lang ang budget sa sahod ng 5 USEC, sangkatutak na ASEC, can we start by an NDRRMC authority or administration tulad ni Apo Lakay, yung DBM nag-umpisa bilang commission, smaller basis, just the authority or administration.
We are siblings indeed. I fully agree. I did not ever understand the concept of a full ministerial department. I don't think it means that, because you don't really have to form policy. It is just an implementation of a rescue mission or search and rescue mission. There are many models, but the good model that I've seen is FEMA,
the
in
US
the United
model
States,
is,
and that's only an adjunct of the Ministry of Interior yata yun, and
That's
Department
correct.
of the Interior.
In our case, perhaps just to prove the point, is simply to put it under the office of the president so that the orders can be issued to different departments because they're primo inter pares, right? So perhaps the best would be that situation
As
under the
we
office of the president, but a mere authority or administration so that we save on cost.
Well, we should get that. The proposed bill written.
The bill is filed
The
in
reason-
the
I know
Senate
that
by
there-
myself.
You have one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President,
The speaker is right here.
on the part of the House, we shall support the good senator's proposal here, owing to the fact that we've always been looking for best practices in FEMA, or even the AFAD in Turkey are great models for best practices for these protocols. We shall also join the good senator from Ilocos Norte on her call to support the budgetary requirements for the restoration of the heritage cultural sites, as well, of course, as the various infrastructures on the situation report declaration list of urgent projects. And we will all do so in coordination with our good representatives from the respective districts, who will be, I'm sure, working with the respective mayors, as headed by our LMP mayor, my very good friend, Mayor J.B. Beno. So we are one in, and we are in unity in this call to support these policies that are being outlined today. Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oh, nakapag-legislate pa tayo.
Yes, thank you very much. Apat yung turista sa Bantay Bell Tower na nasaktan eh.
I've seen the pero yun na nga, we have to get I thought we still had to get it written, because we have to disabuse ourselves of the whole idea of another whole department. Yeah. That kind of yes.
Ang problema kasi sa House Department, iba talaga yung Waray thinking sa Ilocano thinking.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we shall right size our legislation.
Yes, sir. Sir, Mr. President, para lang ma-assure ang mga kababayan natin dito sa Abra at sa CAR, ang ating pong kapulisyahan, no? In fact, ang search and rescue po ay 656 na kapulisyahan. Ang naka-standby, o total of search and rescue on standby is 3,335. Ang ating reactionary standby support on standby is 2,429 at ang ating PNP personnel na nasa evacuation center ay 190. On top of this, gusto ko rin i-report, Mr. President, ng ating mga bombero, ang BFP ay nag-deploy ng 1,000 mga tao. Kumpleto po ito sa mga tools and accessories. Yung 25 na mga fire trucks na mga bago, pinagamit ko na po muna dito para magamit nyo po, no? Board, baka kailangan niyo po itong mga mobile na ito sa mga lugar. Yun lang po, Mr. President.
Siguro sa mga evacuation area, ipapakain natin. We can give them a hand. Yes, please.
Mr. President, this is so important. Sinerve po namin, pati Kalinga, pati hindi lang Abra, Kalinga, Mountain Province. Ito po yung mga affected at saka Benguet. And at this point po, ay dito po sa Abra, ay meron ho tayong 5 million para sa ibigay po natin para rin sa injured at saka yung partially at saka yung totally damaged mga houses. Ito po ay ni Secretary Tulfo at meron pa hong incoming na 5 million. So all in all, 10 million. Dahil mas marami ho rito para matulungan natin yung mga kababayan. And then meron ho tayo yung sa mga ibang area, magpo-provide ho din ho tayo as support natin.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. So I think we have a good idea of the situation. Let us go once again through the list of the requirements, the needs. Number one is the water supply, and of course the whatever financial support that the DSWD is intending to provide para yung mga that have been rendered homeless, or at least they have been evacuated. May support naman sila ng konti. That will include the feeding and the IX that we are providing for them now.
Actually, sir, meron din ho kaming quick reaction na refunds. Yung QRF, tapos sasabi nga po ni Senador Marcos, sir, na yung sa housing, meron din ho kaming ganon na we provide cash assistance para sa housing.
Yeah. That's to and then maybe tignan muna natin, i-assess natin kung kailangan na makapag-provide kahit na mga trapal lang, kahit yung mga just for the interim. You are doing that already.
We have that, Mr.
Good,
President.
because that will encourage people to go back home. All right, so at least dun sa mga naapektuhan, naging biktima, let's make sure that we are ready to support them and give them all that they need. Ngayon sa infrastructure, of course, Public Works, paspas nyo yung ipaspas nyo yung pagbukas. Well, actually, so far, what? 85% nang nag-close, na buksan nyo na. But again, we still have the prospect. Meron pa ring mga kaya nauulit yung sinasabi ni Kong JB that na-clear na yung nasisira. But we just keep doing that. And then again, the coordination between you and with the civil engineers to do the inspections first of the public buildings. I think your priority will be, quite right, is the hospital. Uunahin natin, even before the government buildings, yung mga offices, yung mga ganun, unahin natin yung hospital. Alright, so when we organize that, let's go first to the hospital, let's go first to the clinics, the healthcare centers, make sure and then we can then go look at the government buildings, after which we can puntahan na rin natin yung mga bahay ng mga tao para makita kung pwede na talaga sila, safe na sila kahit na So that we'll just keep we will just keep monitoring that. But again, I know I have said it, but I will repeat it. Mga national government agencies, lahat ng gagawin ninyo, please coordinate closely with the local government para ma-maximize ang inyong mga asset. Hindi kayo nag-uulit, hindi kayo nagkukulang. You have a plan, you plan everything together. You listen to the local governments because tiga rito rin naman kayo. But you listen to the local governments kasi sila they are the ones who have the fundamental responsibility to bring this aid to our people, to those who have been hurt. Yan yung ating mga I know. I still say we. Sometimes I still say, kami sa local government. hindi ko na matanggal sa ko yun eh. But yes, but those are the problems we experienced. O di ba? Pag government biglang papasok, hindi mo alam kung ano nangyayari, hindi nakikipag-coordinate. Sayang lang ang effort, it's not maximum. Well, okay. All right. So I think that we've covered as much as we can. We will continue to monitor, of course, especially yung mga areas na hindi pa natin na wala pa tayong balita for now, in terms of casualties, in terms of damage, etc. But yung sa air assets ng DND, we will arrange na para hindi tayo masyadong nahihirapan at maiaabot na natin yung mga isolated areas o dagdagan natin. The DND has agreed to put another helicopter at the disposal of the distribution, the food, and at some point water distribution na gagawin. Okay, I think
Mr. President?
Yes,
Mayor Bernos po. I'm speaking on behalf of the 27 mayors po, the 27 LGUs. I would like to take this opportunity na magpatulong po sa inyo na sana po palakasin natin yung disaster response ng mga LGUs. Usually ho, pag may lindol, nagkakaroon ng sunog, but luckily in Abra, hindi po nangyari yan. But for the information of everyone po, yung Abra po, apat lang po yung nakatap condition na fire truck in the whole province of Abra. According to the statistics from the Bureau of Fire, apat lang po yung fire truck, the rest po are dilapidated. Yung Panggen nga po, may fire truck sila na panahon pa po ng tatay ninyo na fire truck yun. That was 30-something years ago. So, inihiling ko po na sana palakasin yung disaster response ng mga LGUs. Balita ko po from the BFP, they have brought 15 brand new fire trucks to Abra now. baka pwede po, Mr. President, na iwan na lang po yung iba dito because of all the municipalities in Abra, we have 16 na fire station. Pero of that 16, 4 lang po yung may nakatap condition na fire truck. So sana po, iwan na lang po yung fire truck dito with the permission from the good SILG. Sana po. And in relation to that po, yung ambulance po, every now and then, during the previous administrations, I was once a mayor before for 3 terms, lagi po kaming lumuluhod sa PCSO for ambulance. So this time, siguro naman po, open na po lahat yung request namin because may Ilocano president na kami and we delivered 96% of the votes of Abra during the last election. So tingin ko, kami naman po maniningil ngayon. Mr. President, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat. All your comments are well noted. And no, of course, we'll look into it paano mag-ano ng but the problem of fire truck and ambulance is worse here in Abra than in other provinces. Medyo naiwanan kayo when it comes to that. So we have to, ito ating mga legislators, sabihin niyo mga
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Pero out of the 15, sir, baka pwede pong makapag-iwan si SILD. Hihirit pa.
Pag-usapan nyo, baka makumbinsin mo.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Malakas ka naman sa kanya eh.
Maraming salamat po.
Magkaibigan naman kayo eh. All right, so, okay, beyond the fire trucks and the ambulances, is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up? All right, thank you very much. Thank you and good morning. Thank you for all your help.
Just tagunay dagina, Mr. President, we Abreños are blessed to have a caring president. This concludes our program. On behalf of the province of Abra, we would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Stay safe, everyone.